Okay, I see Dean has a question over here. What are the fundamental news for FX trader that you need to look out for? Okay, very good question over here as well. Okay, now the part here is, I wouldn't say is more of like fundamental news, but you need to see it from a perspective of if I give you a very quick outlook on fundamental, look at central banks. Okay, so it's not really like news, right? It's not like you open up Bloomberg headline or the news articles headline that you see on social media. Those are not okay. You don't really make a decision from those. Those are good to know, but I always say those articles that you read, they are reported news. It's done. Okay, they're just reporting. Okay, you're not able to do any forecasting from there. So from fundamental perspective, I give you the big picture. Okay, first you need to understand central banks. Okay, and of course, by central banks here, I'm also referring to, of course, their policy, their monetary policy. You need to understand what are some of the tools they're able to use to affect the market and control, to a certain extent, the economic development of a country. Okay, and then from there you then move into economic data. Okay, and of course, this is, for example, economic data here. Some of the common and popular ones are NFP, non-farm payroll, CPI, consumer price index, employment data, labor data, right? Those are all economic data. Okay, and you want to at least, there's a lot of them, but at least know a few that are important. Okay, and those are important data that the central bank tracks as well, because understanding how the economy is developing through this data, you're able to project what would the central bank do next. Okay, now last FOMC, before it released, okay, I believe, I'm not sure if I did share with you guys last week on like this sharing session like that. Okay, but I remember I shared it with at least our community of traders, where inflation is already there. Okay, because we look at CPI, we look at PPI, we know inflation is very hot. Okay, and definitely the central bank is also looking at that. Okay, and therefore we kind of like can preempt, or I would say we can likely know the Fed would probably look into inflation and make some changes, right? So you won't, why this is important is because you won't be surprised. You won't have that shock element when you come to the market, right? You already more or less can project, this is likely going to happen, right? And when it happens, then you will know, okay, that is expected. Okay, so that's where the economic data plays a part in fundamental, and of course then you have the impact, okay, or how is it going to affect the markets. Okay, so in short, okay, if I were to really put it in three categories, or oversimplified to a certain extent, this encompasses fundamental. Okay, yeah, but at the same time, you definitely need to go and study a little bit more into like central bank policy. Okay, generally, what are the tools? Of course, interest rate, QE, tone. Okay, those are the policies, right? What are some of their mandate? I think is important. Okay, understand a little bit on what are the economic datas, and of course, how this part of things would affect the market. Okay, so essentially that is fundamental. Okay, so you realize there's no such thing as like reading on article on Bloomberg. Those are, again, to me, too late. By the time you see those things, they are already reported. Okay, usually that's the case. Okay, so hope that can give you a better understanding, big picture of what fundamental is. Yeah. Chin has a question here. How does risk on, risk off concept play? Okay, pretty straightforward actually in the event of what happened last week. Okay, so if you take a look at like, I would say yen pairs, okay, are pretty obvious in the risk on, risk off environment. Okay, the idea of risk on, risk off, okay, a lot of people over kind of like complicate it, but wanted to share with you over here, very, very easy to understand actually. Okay, just imagine like risk, okay, in this case is a switch, okay, or a button. Okay, and therefore you have two options, right? You either switch it on or you switch it off. right? So imagine if today you decide to switch this button on, which is risk, okay, and it becomes a risk on, okay. So what it then means is that you are willing to take risks for a better return, for a higher return, okay. And of course, the opposite here is if today it's risk off, you're just simply the opposite, not willing. So of course, this is a very, again, oversimplified way of understanding, but it helps, okay. So if today you are willing to take risks, okay, under which circumstances or under which environment would, just imagine, right? If today you are a trader or investor with a lot of money, okay, you're definitely going to be a little bit protective of capital, right? So you would then have these two modes, okay, where first you are willing to take risks, okay, you are a little bit more aggressive, and then you have the other mode where you want to protect your capital, right? So you're not willing to take risks. So you need to then understand at what situation will you be willing to take risks. Most of the time is because maybe the market environment is rather certain, things are looking good, outlook is positive, right? Then you're willing to take a little bit more risk. But if let's say there are a lot of uncertainty, there's some panic, there's some fear in the market, not sure what's going to happen, that's where you are going to be protective of your capital, right? And that's where we say that's a risk-off environment. Okay, so if you take a look at 2020 March, okay, where we have like a global lockdown, we have this pandemic rising, there's a lot of uncertainty in the environment, okay, and that's what we call risk-off environment. Last Friday or Thursday, okay, where we have FOMC suddenly shifting from the stance of 2024 tapering to 2023, okay, raising rates. That's also a fear element being put into the market, right? Because suddenly there's uncertainty, okay? Because things change, right? When you decide to do it on 2024 and then suddenly you say no, we do it on 2023, things change, that's uncertain, so that becomes a risk off, okay. So if you take a look at JPY, usually when there's a risk off environment, the yen will strengthen, which means the pair will drop, okay. If I bring you back to March 2020, okay, over here, okay, you can see that as well. March 2020, that's where it dropped, right? Because of the entire pandemic as well, causes uncertainty, the yen strengthened, it drops. So same thing over here based on last week, okay, that sentiment pushed the yen down. So opposite, just imagine, right? Exactly the opposite is going to happen probably. So that's a very short crash course about risk on, risk off, okay? We call this sentiment, right? When we talk about risk on, risk off environment, we usually refer that to sentiment analysis. Yeah, I hope that's clear. I saw it wrongly. Okay, good. FOMO, which for those of you who do not know this term, is called fear of missing out. Okay. How to deal with that? It's not gonna be an overnight thing when you want to work on this aspect, right? Because this essentially, okay, is the psychology in trading. Okay, it's a very big topic, okay, but at the same time, it's very important in kind of like developing your trading psychology, your emotions. Okay. Now there are of course a lot of ways to do it. All of us have different ways to kind of develop this perspective, this side of it. Okay. Some, I'm not sure if you guys hear about like some of you probably hear about how traders meditate. Now I don't really do that. Okay. But I know traders who do that, right? And I know to a certain extent, some traders actually benefit from it. Okay, now meditation is not really about those, like you sit there and then you just for 5 minutes and then things like that. No, it's a very conscious effort, right? And meditation more about building, at the end of the day, self-awareness. Okay. So if you understand that at the end of the day, the objective is to raise and build your self-awareness, there are also other ways to do that. Okay. Of course, one way is to do reflection, or I would say self-reflection. And in order for you to do self-reflection, perhaps journaling helps. Okay, or similar to like diary. Okay, penning down your thoughts, how you feel, reflect about it, and then see where you can evaluate, right? So it's a constant process of all this, right? You can add on a little bit here and there as well. And it also takes maybe, if you have the opportunity, call it accountability. Okay, so I'm throwing all this in, right? You need to probably then figure out like which one aligns with you, like which one rings a bell when you're sharing. Accountability here also refers to like trading partner or even partners. Okay, more than one, it can be in a group. But a lot of people, when they have a partner, or let's say a community or a group in trading, they over exploit it the negative way. Okay, when I talk about accountability, trading partners, a community, I'm not telling you to join a group where you share trade ideas or signal, right? Even worse. Okay, no. Bouncing of ideas is fine. It's healthy to a certain extent if the maturity level of the traders are more or less equal in that group, right? In the community. But if you are looking like, tell me what to trade, okay, then that's not gonna help you, right? The idea of accountability is more like you have blind spots. Okay, all of us have blind spots. Blind spots are things where no matter how hard you try, to a certain extent, you're not able to identify that weakness. But from a third party perspective, it can be very clear to the other person. Okay? Even I have blind spots, right? So this is where the accountability comes in. The trading partner or community comes in, is you're able to help one another and give constructive feedback. Okay? And I can share with you, this helps a lot, right? To me, back then when I got started in this journey, I have friends, and of course in school, okay, was fortunate enough to also have like investment clubs, and then we have a group of traders. All of us are students, so form kind of like closer groups, who are very interested in the market. That whole journey helps as well, right? Because we tend to bounce ideas, we kind of like give each other feedback. And of course, with accountability, you are a little bit more disciplined as well, because it's more like you need to answer to the other partner, right? To your partner. Okay, so that subconsciously will help you develop the ability of self-awareness again. Okay, because if today you have a trading partner and you anyhow make trading decision, then your partner asks you, then you need to answer for it, right? That's what accountability is. And slowly through this process, you're gonna be more self-aware, right? Because in our Asia context, we say no face, right? If you if you keep doing stupid mistakes, you lose your face. Okay, so that whole process of helps, right? All this is coming together, right? So this is where I think it's not gonna only help you in FOMO, in the fear of missing out. It's gonna help you in your discipline. Okay, it's gonna help you in your, I would say, emotional management. Okay, where when you suffer some losses, you suffer some win, you're definitely gonna feel emotional about it, right? When you suffer losses, all of us are human. We're gonna feel sad, disappointed. Okay, but how you're gonna manage that and pick up from there is the key. Okay, a lot of times you might hear people say, as a trader, you cannot be emotional. No, to a certain extent, that's not true. You are gonna be emotional, but it's how you're gonna manage it that's the crucial part. Okay, same thing if you take winning trade, you're gonna feel excited. You're gonna have that greed element. It's definitely there. It's how you manage it that makes a diff. Okay, so that is very important. Yeah, right. So great. I see here Marcus also say there's a buzz every 15 minutes. Good way of coping with FOMO. Okay. Yeah, and I want you to know that as a retail trader, right, you do not have the pressure to execute trade. Okay, you are trading your own account. No one is telling you or forcing you like how many trades you need to take in a week, in a month. Sometimes there might not be a trade, and don't feel the pressure to take it. Okay, that's something that you probably be able to work on it, right? So that's a good way as well. to kind of remind yourself that. Okay, but you realize that the first step to all this, the first step to this is be aware. Okay, this one is a little bit on like personal development as well. Awareness is always the first step towards improvement. Okay, because that's the phase where you know there's something I need to work on. Okay, the next part is acknowledgement. Okay, this cannot be skipped as well, because if today you're aware but you don't acknowledge that you need to work on that, you don't acknowledge that that is hurting your performance, is hurting you as a trader, then you will not work on it. Okay, so the first step is definitely to be aware, then you need to acknowledge. Okay, and then after that, that's where with that you start to work on it, improve. Okay, find ways to evaluate stuff. Okay, so this tool is really very important because I feel a lot of traders is probably they are aware, or some of them are not even aware of it, but they did not acknowledge that. Okay, it's subconsciously quite important. Okay, like acknowledge it to yourself. Okay, that yeah, this is hurting me. I need to work on it. Okay, that kind of acknowledgement is crucial. Yeah, so so I hope this, this conversation here a little bit on psychology helps. Okay, yeah, right. So yeah, again, I'm not professional psychologist. I'm only able to share with you what I've learned and pick up from my own journey. Um, but if you really want, I think there are books out there. Um, I can't recall the full name, but I kind of like can't really remember the spelling as well. But his name, if I'm not wrong, is Brad Steinbarger, something like that, right? The one he wrote a few books. Okay, one of the book is called The Daily Coach. If I recall the book correctly. Is the book that I read many years ago. Um, he is obviously a much professional psychologist that deals with traders, okay, than me. Okay, so if you really want to work on this aspect of trading, go and read some of his books. Okay, probably just Google the Daily Coach and then spell something like that. You should be able to find it. Okay, yeah. So go and read that. Okay, I think this book. Okay, I would suggest that you read it because it gives you some tips and hints on how to coach yourself in arena of trading. Oh yeah, right. So Chin here share. Um, put it up. Okay, yeah. He wrote a few books. Okay, so just you can grab hold of the books that he wrote. All of them are good. Yeah, right. So yeah, so I hope this part here where a lot of traders are probably not very interested into it, but to me honestly it's quite important. Okay, because strategy is one thing, analysis is one thing, understanding, or I would say knowledge of the market is one thing, um, but the other element here is yourself. Okay, so that's also something very interesting in the world of finance, is because you really need to develop yourself as well, at the same time acquire the knowledge of the market, then you put them together. That's more like a success formula of trader investor. Yeah, so yeah, I hope today's sharing session here is fruitful for you guys. Okay, cool, right? So we run this every Monday. Okay, unless there's some hiccup, very hard to explain, but if not, okay, we run this every Monday. Okay, so if this is something that you enjoy, you benefit from it, do feel free to invite your friends, right? Share with them as well. Okay. My objective or intention over here is pretty clear. Just wanted to really reach out to more traders and hopefully give them some proper understanding of this journey. Okay, and at least if today I can help someone to not be scammed in the market, right? Not like lose their entire saving. I think that itself is worthwhile. Okay, yeah, so cool. That's all from me today. All the best for the week. Okay, and I'll see you guys next. Okay, best have a good night ahead, and guys soon. Bye.